Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Pramanande Haribo. Prabhuji, can you move this one? So thank you all so much. Get that right. Can I get this table? Thank you, Prabhu. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I want to do a new exercise for all of you today, so thank you all for coming. I'd like to see if you can close your eyes and see if you can visualize the face of the deities of Gaurnitai. So you can close your eyes and I'll guide you to see if you can remember what they look like. So please close your eyes and see if we can do this experiment. Because it's very common when you close your eyes, you can immediately see your mother's face, your father's face. But can you see the face of Sri Sri Gauranitai? See if you can recognize their eyes, their ears, their beautiful eyebrows, their nose, their cheeks, and their chin. And if you can visualize their arms raised up, see if you can remember how their fingers are placed while they have their arms raised. And now if you can come down to their lotus feet and see if you can see their lotus feet. How are they dancing? Are they just standing or are they dancing? Do you see the front feet? The right foot to the front or the left foot to the front? What do you see? Okay, now you can gently open your eyes. So when you have your darshan today, I would like you to get a very close-up look at them. And what you just saw now, you can try and verify it to see if that's exactly how they are situated on the altar. And the reason we do this exercise, of course we get into a lot of details of this meditation because there's a beautiful text that explains how we should take darshan of the deities. It explains Pado yadiyo pratama dvitiyo. It explains how the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam is actually describing the lotus feet of Krishna. And it's so beautiful. And it describes every limb of Krishna's body. And when you study that, what happens is you can close your eyes anytime, anywhere, and you'll be able to see Krishna. It's such a beautiful meditation, and I recommend you to try it. Because I actually do this. When I see the deities, I try to see how their toes, what kind of toe rings they're wearing, what color they're wearing. It's very beautiful meditation. And then when you look at Gaurnitai's face, sometimes when you see them, they look like they're angry to you. Has that ever happened? No? You just see them happy? That's fantastic. But normally you see the deities, sometimes you look like you've done something wrong because they're looking at you with like you've been up to no good. And so we have a tendency to reflect our consciousness on the deities based on our mindset. So when we come to the temple and we take beautiful detailed darshan of the deities, instead of just going there and telling them all your problems, you admire them their beautiful features. And then I recommend all of you to practice this, which is to at least come and say 10 things that is going on right in your life. 10 things that you're grateful for. It's such a beautiful meditation. Because a lot of us, we say that we go to the temples and we pray to the deities. Or we go pray at the church. But it is not quite a prayer when you go there to ask for things. Most of us, we go to temples, we want something, we ask for good grades, some peace, maybe a wife, maybe a husband, maybe a better job, maybe a better home, better career for the children. We're constantly begging for something. And that is actually not a prayer. Prayer is when you go there to appreciate all the beautiful gifts that has already been given to you. So you can try this every day when you wake up in the morning. I was reading Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's one of these great saintly personalities. Incredible, incredible saintly personalities. And his prayers are so deep and so heart-wrenching and so heartfelt and so genuine. He's always praying to the Lord. He's expressing to the Lord what a wonderful gift that he has. And he's telling and revealing to the Lord all his struggles. But he's never asking for anything. Such a beautiful thing. I don't see any of his prayers. He's considered to be one of the most preeminent saints in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. But he never really asks for something. He just goes there and he appreciates Krishna, everything that he is and everything that he has given. And then he talks about what's happening in his life and he just shares it with the Lord, like you would share with a friend, without expecting them to, write you a check or take all your problems away. He's just sharing. So this is just something that I have been realizing for a while now. And I just wanted to share with you that when you go to a temple, because please understand, beautiful souls, that he knows what you want and what you need. Krishna knows. He is situated in your heart. You don't have to ask. The child never asks the mother, "Can I please have some food?" The mother knows when to feed the child, what to feed the child, how to feed the child, when the child is hungry. The child never asks, "Mom, can you buy me a jacket?" Imagine, a 3-year-old kid tells you, "Dad, I need a jacket, I'm cold." No, they don't ask for anything. Because the mother and father, they are observing everything and they know when to give. So similarly, their lordships, Sri Gaurnitai, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra Devi and Radha, Madan Mohan, they're situated in all of your hearts and they know all your desires. So you don't have to repeat something that someone already knows. I know that I used to raise little children in the ashram, and whenever I told them something, they're like, if they would spill some food on the ground, I would say, "Can you please pick it up? You shouldn't leave food on the ground." They're like, "Come on, don't you think I already know that?" And they would get agitated, they would get upset. Like, how dare you question my intelligence? How dare you question my character? So imagine when you go to Krishna and you're telling him all these things that you want, that you need. That may be your way of reciprocating with them, but this is just something that I have been practicing. So I wanted to share with you because I see in the writings of the acharyas, they're not begging for anything. They're just simply engaged in the service. So that was just me sharing my heart with you. And so I wanted to discuss a little bit about these festivals that are coming up and also Lord Jagannath. Who here has been to Jagannath Puri? Raise your hand if you have been to Jagannath Puri. Who has not been to Jagannath Puri? Raise your hand. Who here has no idea what I'm talking about? So what is your name? Eli and Lauren. Eli, where are you from? Whatever you want to answer me. Originally, presently? California. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. And we have Lauren here from Alabama. It's a beautiful soul that I met yesterday. We've been hanging out. So Jagannath Puri is a place in India, in a state called Orissa. And there is a temple there of Lord Jagannath. The temple was built thousands of years ago on the bank of the ocean. And it's considered to be one of the most powerfully, spiritually charged, sanctified, sacred spaces in all of India. And they just had a major festival, is a festival that is considered to be one of the most attended, the most viewed, the most crowded, the most ecstatic, the most enlivening, the most uplifting, the most everything possibly you can imagine. There's an average of 2 million people that come to the parade. And extremely well organized. Hotels are booked almost a year in advance for those dates. So it's such a beautiful festival, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And what is the phenomenon of Lord Jagannath that draws the hearts and the minds of millions of people all across the world? That is our topic of discussion today. What is so unique about these forms? They have big eyes. They're looking at you with such compassion. So, I went to Jagannath Puri last year. It is a place of deep meditation in separation. We have different kinds of meditation. Some of us meditate with our eyes closed. There is closed-eyed meditation, there is open-eyed meditation, and then there is the meditation of the divine eyes or the eyes of the heart, where you're able to connect and see the beautiful transcendental qualities and pastimes of the Lord. And those eyes are described by the creator of the universe, the four-headed creator. His name is Brahma. He explains, Preman jana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. Santa means the saints, hridayeshu in their heart, vilokayanti. With the eyes of their heart, they're continuously able to observe the beautiful creation of Lord Jagannath, beautiful creation of God. So everything in this world, they see it with the eyes of the heart. So this is what happens in Jagannath Puri, where you get to immerse yourself and indulge yourself in the beautiful pastimes of Krishna in separation. There is a physical separation which creates spiritual intimacy, heart intimacy. This phenomenon is common also in the material world, that you will see that when you are together, boyfriends and girlfriends, they're together for a long time, it becomes a little stagnant. And then when she goes away, for a while she's gone, her heart becomes more fonder, your heart becomes more fonder, and you can't wait to see each other again. So this is what's happening in Jagannath Puri, this place I'm telling you about. This is what's happening in its spiritual essence. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that you see in the center, he is Krishna, but in the mood of Krishna's counterpart, which is Srimati Radharani. It's very complex subject matter and very difficult to understand. But it's also very easy to understand. It's difficult to understand because our mind is very complex. The mind has a tendency to make everything simple very complex. And the heart is the opposite. Something that is very complex makes it very simple. And so therefore this practice of bhakti is a practice of the heart. It is not an intellectual practice. We cannot understand this practice, this meditation with your mind, with your intelligence. That's not how it works. The bhakti is really a meditation of the heart. And that's why this incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very difficult to understand. How is it possible that God, He is here, but in the mood of His lover? It's a little complex. I could simplify it, but it might confuse you, because the mind will make it more confusing. But we'll let you one day realize and experience. But the saints have made it very clear on how to understand this mood. Radhara Mahima Premera Shashima Radhara Mahima Jagate Janatoke. There is a great saint, he is explaining that if it wasn't for the saintly acharyas, saintly personalities, who would explain the complexity of emotions? Because the heart is the seat of transcendental emotion. The heart is the seat of transcendental emotion, and mind is the seat of all material emotions. Thinking, willing, and feeling is the three functions of the mind. So all material happiness, all sadness, these are something that is only experienced in the mind. And the real emotions are only experienced in the heart. So, this bhakti, the practice of bhakti is how to open the doors to experience the emotions that has been presented to us by the great saintly acharyas. They have relished these transcendental emotions of bhakti in the heart. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he spent 30 years in Jagannath Puri. And he is Krishna himself, but living in separation from the residents of Vrindavan. And you'll be surprised when you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, most of his time is in Bengal and in Vrindavan. Because initial part is him really sharing the message of bhakti and the theology of bhakti, the practice of bhakti. And then he goes to Jagannath Puri where he is actually experiencing this separation. He's experiencing this deep spiritual emotions of Mahabhav. So that's why Jagannath Puri is a place where everyone must at least go once in your life. And there are such deep places of spiritual significance that you will actually just sit there, and when you hear the significance of all those places, doesn't matter how hard your heart is, your heart will melt. Simply by understanding the intensity of spiritual emotions. That Krishna, he is accepting service. When it's difficult, Krishna actually sits down to receive service from his devotees. How deep reciprocal relationships can be had with the Supreme Lord. So that's why Jagannath Puri is very unique. So I want to touch a little bit more on this great forms of the Lord Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. Why they are the way they are and how did they get here. But I will give you a very condensed version so you won't have to, so I won't take too much of your time. So, as you know, Krishna was born in Gokul, lived in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is a beautiful spiritual city, for those of you who do not know. Who has not visited Vrindavan? Raise your hand. Oof. I recommend another place you must go. It is a city of 5,000 temples. And is maybe now over 10,000 temples. And when you go to Vrindavan, you don't have to do anything. You can sleep in Vrindavan and still find spiritual happiness. That's how powerful it is. So, Krishna grew up in Vrindavan. And then he was beckoned to go to Mathura, which is the city outside of Vrindavan. And there he spent some time and did some pastimes. Mathura is a city, is a palace, is a kingdom. And then from there he moved to Dwarka, which is where he was the king, and he lived there for a while. But something in Krishna's heart was unhappy. He was in constant pain. Imagine being in constant pain. So Krishna was in constant pain because he was feeling the separation from his dear friends and his devotees in Vrindavan. Because they meant everything to him. So, as Krishna would go to sleep at night, he would wake up calling for the Vrajavasis, calling for the gopis, calling for Srimati Radharani, all the incredible personalities, his dearmost lovers and friends of Vrindavan. So he would have such ecstatic spiritual emotions even in his sleep, because the relationship that he had with the residents of Vrindavan was so elevated, so ecstatic, and so high that no matter where he went, that emotion is what his heart was always longing for. So he would wake up in the middle of the night, and his queens, he had 16,108 queens. It's a little difficult to understand. But God can do anything. He can do anything, and He can do everything whenever He wants, however way He wants. That's why He is considered to be God. So the queens were completely disturbed by the fact that their husband, Krishna, was not having good night's rest. So they're wondering what to do. They're trying to crack the code and figure out how to solve these problems. So they were kept asking each other, is this happening to you in your palace as well? And everyone said, yes, this is what Krishna is doing. Every night he's calling for Radhe, Radhe. Hey Radhe, Vrajadevike. And he's always calling out for Srimati Radharani and the residents of Vrindavan. Such deep separation. So they wanted to know. And finally, Balaram's mother, Rukmini Devi, said, I will tell you what's really happening in Vrindavan. Because the queens have never been to Vrindavan, just as the residents of Vrindavan, they don't go to palaces. Like there are people who live in the country, they don't like to go to the city. And there are city folks who would never go live in the country. Because the moods are different, the energies are different, and the vibrations are different. So they don't know much about each other. So Rohini was going to share with all the queens what really happens in Vrindavan. Why is it that Krishna is calling out for Radha and the residents of Vrindavan? But they wanted to make sure that Krishna and Balaram, they do not come into that space because it's private. It's ladies, they get together and they have, ladies need to have them ladies' time, girls' time. And they delegated the responsibility to guard the door to Subhadra Devi that you see in the middle. And she also doesn't know much about the love of the residents of Vrindavan. So when the mother of Balaram started to explain what the happenings of Vrindavan, Subhadra kind of freezes. It's the intensity of the love that they share in Vrindavan. It's very difficult to understand for someone who has not experienced it. Just like, all of you, I think at some point have to study Shakespeare. It talks about what material idea of what love is. So, in the spiritual world, the highest place to experience that spiritual emotions of love is Vrindavan. And never experienced, never heard of before. So Subhadra kind of froze. And Krishna was walking around the palace, and he notices that everyone is gathered. So he comes in and he eavesdrops in the conversation. And when he hears about the love of the residents of Vrindavan, he loses himself. He just loses it. And he goes into this deep spiritual emotions of Mahabhav. Mahabhav is the highest spiritual ecstatic emotion that is experienced. And so, in that state, you're physically immobile, unconscious. So he lays down. And Balaram, Narada Muni and Uddhava, they see this form of Jagannath. And Balaram, he's also there, and he also starts to get into this deep ecstatic spiritual emotions where he cannot blink his eyes. His hands become withdrawn into his body, and his legs also disappear into his body. I know this is difficult to understand. So, this form that you see is that deep form of spiritual love. Big eyes. And this form of ecstatic love is this Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. And Narada Muni, when he saw these forms, he was thinking, oh my God, I have seen all forms of Krishna, but I've never seen this form. This is so cool. So he came in to check it out. And he started to also have those spiritual symptoms come out from inside. And he loved that emotion of deep spiritual love. And you know, being Narada Muni, the greatest saint, the most compassionate saint, he touches Krishna, Balaram and Subhadra and wakes them up from that deep mahabhav, this deep spiritual emotion. It's like, wake up, you know, a little wake up call. And they come back to their normal forms. And he begs Krishna, Balaram, and he says, my dear Lord, can you please, this form that I just witnessed is the most beautiful form that I have ever seen. Can you please make this form accessible to all the conditioned souls? And Krishna never says no to his devotees. So he says, of course, and I'll be there. And explains, Narada Muni explains, that anyone who sees this form, anyone who sees Lord Jagannath in this form, will never have to take birth again in this material world. So, this is happening in Dwapar Yuga in Dwarka. And in Kali Yuga, Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra Devi comes in Jagannath Puri. And so this is why this form is so unique, that if you see Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra Devi, your life is over. Your material life is over. Because this is the highest expression of spiritual love. You will automatically be transported to the spiritual world upon leaving your material bodies behind. So this is why this Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra Devi is so merciful. So merciful. I'll explain this small story and then I'll end. Prabhupada had a disciple named Gaur Govinda Swami. He's from Orissa. He's a born Brahmana. Very pious. When he was a brahmachari, Prabhupada loved him when he said he is from Orissa. And Prabhupada immediately was in this deep mood of spiritual ecstasy, because that's what Jagannath's form represents, spiritual ecstasy. And he started the Rathayatra when he was 5 years old, because that's his heart is the deity of his heart. So Gaur Govinda Swami, at that time brahmachari, he was very excited to be in his company, and he said, you know, you should build a temple and take all his devotees, my disciples, to Jagannath Puri. Fair enough, the devotees went to Jagannath Puri, but in Jagannath Puri temple, they do not allow Americans and Europeans. So they have, it's a very interesting, I don't know how it is, but they do not allow white people in the temple. And I'll tell you why it is. One of the pandas had told me, I have not authenticated this, but I will share with you anyways, that it is explained in some Puranas that Jagannath will one day leave the temple and come out and be worshipped by Europeans and Americans. So somehow there is some internal understanding amongst the priests. There is over 5,000 priests in that temple. They know, so this Jagannath, we cannot have Americans, Europeans come in, because Jagannath will follow them. So therefore we will just ban them from coming in. So therefore, Americans and Europeans, I feel sorry for you. But guess what? The unique part of this pastime, is that Lord Jagannath personally comes out once a year on this Rathayatra parade. So now getting back to the story, Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he noticed he couldn't take, first time they realized that Americans and Europeans were not allowed in the temple. So when Prabhupada got the news, he was very hurt in his heart. He said, Jagannath is the highest expression of spiritual ecstasy, and I travel the world spreading his glories, and my own disciples are not allowed in his temple. So he instructed his disciple, please, my dear Gaur Govinda Swami, build a temple right here. And I tell you, I promise you, I will not go to Jagannath Puri. And Prabhupada didn't go, because my disciples are not allowed, so I will not go there. But you must make a temple of Jagannath in Bhuvaneshwar, and everyone will come to that temple, and that temple will become as famous as the Jagannath temple. And that Jagannath will give darshan to all the Europeans and Americans and everyone in the world indiscriminately. So this is that form of Lord Jagannath. And when you go, nowadays they're a little lenient. They have Patita Pavana Jagannath. Lord Jagannath comes from inside the altar and he sits at the gate, because they won't allow you inside the temple. So he sits at the gate entrance, waiting for you to come and see him. So no excuse for you to not go to Jagannath Puri, because you can still see him, because he's come all the way from inside the temple room and standing at the gate, sitting at the gate waiting for you. This is why he's called Jagannath, the Lord of the universe. No discrimination whatsoever of who you are, where you are, what background, what packaging you have of this material body, what kind of a leather bag you have, it doesn't matter. Lord Jagannath welcomes everybody. And this is why we have Lord Jagannath in practically every ISKCON temple. And Prabhupada made sure that Jagannath Rathayatra be held in every city of the world, in every country of the world. And as a result, you will see Jagannath Rathayatra is celebrated everywhere in the world. Different times of the world. Jagannath Swami ki jai. So who wants to go to Jagannath Puri? Raise your hand. He will make it happen. You just have to have a desire. Who wants to go to Jagannath Puri? Haribo. So I just want to let you know that every year I go to India on a spiritual pilgrimage. Last year I took 50 American and European students to Rishikesh, Vrindavan. I haven't taken them to Jagannath Puri. Jagannath Puri is a little higher level. And I recommend all of you to take a pause in your life and do something that will truly connect with the very nature of the condition of your spiritual heart. That means take time to visit places of pilgrimage at least once a year and recharge your spiritual batteries. These holy places all around the world, these are spiritual energy vortexes and spiritual charging stations. It's bigger than Tesla charging stations. You can just go there and you're instantly charged. So please keep this in your mind, that before you die, you should visit Jagannath Puri, visit Vrindavan, visit Mayapur, and if possible, every year you should take a pilgrimage and recharge the spiritual vibration of the heart. Otherwise, your heart will starve, and you will keep feeding your body and your mind and your intellect, and the heart will continuously starve. And bhakti is about feeding your heart. Bhakti is about enjoying the emotions, the spiritual emotions of the heart. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all so much. Does anybody like to add anything or subtract anything? Amrit Bhai. 64. 64, yes. 54, yes. 56. Yeah. These deities you see there, they like to eat. They're called the eating gods. You know, they have gods for so many things. And when Krishna wants to eat, that is his form. So he is also known as the eating god. They feed him 56 preparations, 56 times in 24 hours. Now imagine that. 56 meals, 56 times a day. That means he never sleeps. And if you look very closely, he doesn't have eyelids, if you notice. Because he's always there for you. He will never blink. He never closes his eyes. And he's always ready to eat. And you'll be surprised when you go to Jagannath Puri, they will have this delicious prasadam. And it's cooked with 0 oil. Imagine that. Incredible kitchen. It's incredible, tasty, delicious prasadam. So 56 items. On the 28th of this month, we're going to feed Lord Jagannath with 56 offerings. That is what we try to do, but we always end up doing 200, 300, 400. And we recommend each and every one of you to cook 56 offerings and bring it to Lord Jagannath. So you don't have to go all the way to Puri to experience it. You can experience it right here. So this is why. And his hands, when he eats with his hands. And his hands, you know, after you eat, you take a towel and dry your hands. But he never gets to dry his hands, because as soon as he finishes eating, there's another meal ready. And then he washes his hands. By the time the hand dries, there's another meal ready. So he just keeps eating. And this is the glories of Lord Jagannath. He is the eating God that we worship. Yes, Amrit Bhai.
Another question, they have the 7, 8 pots to cook, but one is top, one is first hand to cook.
Cooking, cooks first.
Yeah.
Yes.
The top.
He knows a lot about Jagannath Puri. When they cook it in wood stoves. They don't use gas. If you go, you'll get a beautiful tour. When they cook, they put multiple pots at the same time. They stack them up. Clay pots. They cook it in clay pots. And they stack them up really high, and they light the fire, and they all cook at the same time. And what he's saying is that the one at the top cooks the first. The one next to the fire doesn't cook first. How is this miracle happen? These are called Jagannath miracles. Scientifically unexplainable, but this is what happens in Jagannath Puri. It starts cooking from the top. The fire is on the bottom, but it starts cooking from the top. And it's just simple clay pots. So thank you, Amrit Bhai. Mataji, you want to add something?
Ekadashi there, no? Ekadashi Prasadam also they are not on.
Yeah, Lord Jagannath.
They are eating the same prasad, whatever 56 Chappanna Bhoga they are preparing on Ekadashi.
Yes, they eat whatever you feed them. So no Ekadashi.
No Ekadashi there.
Ekadashi, Papa Purush is not allowed in the temple. In the temple complex of Lord Jagannath, sin personified is not allowed. And therefore, in that compound, they don't do Ekadashi. So that is, he's told to stay outside. There are many stories. I'll tell you who's guarding Jagannath Puri. They're like, you don't dare to come inside, stay out. Just like the Pandas, they keep the Americans and Europeans out. Yes, yes. There is a lot of very mystical things in that temple. Where the wind comes from, where the chakra is. There's so many mystical things, but he's reminding me, but I don't think we have time. But yes. Arjun Prabhu got beaten up by the pandas. He got the mercy.
One more place where they do some very special things to make sure the deity doesn't run away.
Yes.
They
Yes, yes, yes.
close the curtains all the time.
Yes.
Every few minutes.
They just open and close, open and close.
Fear that the one day Monkey Bihari will run off.
Yes, 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 yes. Krishna is always running after his devotees. Devotees running after Krishna and Krishna is running after devotees. Yes, Prabhu.
Do I have to go Jagannath Puri Rathayatra if I have attended?
Do you have to go to Jagannath Puri Rathayatra to if you have attended Atlanta Rathayatra? The answer is yes or no. Yes, if you want to experience what is the spiritual emotion of 2 million people, what it feels like to be in there. It's so sacred, it's so intense, the spiritual energy. Even place like Calcutta, for example. You know, in the Rathayatra, I remember I was young and I used to drive the chariot for Lord Jagannath. And average maybe 100,000 people for Rathayatra. In India, anytime there is a festival, any given day, anytime, anywhere, without announcement, you'll get few thousand people. If you announce, maybe you'll get 50,000 people. If you make it a little bit more, if it's been happening for a while, you get hundreds and thousands of people. So Jagannath Rathayatra in Atlanta, I remember, I used to drive the chariots. And there are people, they bring their mothers because they can't take them to Puri to see Lord Jagannath, because all you need to see is Lord Jagannath. This is Narada Muni speaking. And the words of the saints, they never are false. They always become true. Krishna has to force those words to become true. Krishna will make sure those words come true. So these ladies, these men would come and bring their elderly mothers. And these women, they knew that if somehow they get crushed under the wheels of Lord Jagannath, they will go to the spiritual world. And I remember these women, every Rathayatra, at least 4 or 5 women and elderly men would jump in front of the wheels. And there's a police barricades all around, Kolkata police. And they would still push through those barricades and jump in front of the Rath cart so that you can run over them. The devotion is so intense. So imagine that emotion multiplied by 2 million times. So that is Jagannath Puri Rath. So if you want to experience it, you can go. But I recommend you seeing Lord Jagannath, yes. If the means are there, capabilities are there, we must go see him. Thank you, Prabhu. Our time is up. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Jagannath Swami ki jai. So today the Sunday feast is sponsored by His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj's disciples in honor of Maharaj's departure from the world to the spiritual world. So nice. And I request Gita Mataji to please come to perform the Arati. And we also like to request Rahul and Kashish to please come to perform the Arati.